Hey everybody, welcome to my video series which is dedicated to inspiring you through biblical and universal principles. This video is part of a video series that I'm doing called Inner Self-Defense. This is part one, and in part one in this video I'm going to cover the 8 characteristics of toxic people. I think this is a very important discussion, something that we don't learn too often in society, something that we don't get until it's too late, until we're hurt, until we're devastated. And we need to be able to identify toxic people because toxic people can destroy our lives. Now, in this world, we go through great measures to protect ourselves physically, to protect ourselves, to protect our family, to protect our property. We'll get security systems, we'll get mace, we'll get weapons, we'll get dogs. We'll get all these things. We'll take martial arts. We'll do all these things to protect ourselves physically. But what about inner protection? You know, the intangibles, our soul, our spirit, our minds. How do we protect those things? So in this series, I'm going to cover how we protect ourselves and our inner selves, and how do we keep our peace. I think one of the first things we need to do in order to protect ourselves is to be able to identify the dangers. And in this video, I'm going to lay out the 8 characteristics of toxic people. Now, if you have not had the opportunity to do so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just go to my channel and hit that red subscribe button. I thank you in advance for your support. Now let's get into the video. The 8 characteristics of toxic people. Now, there are more than 8. There are many characteristics, probably over 30 of toxic people, maybe even more. But I'm going to cover the top 8 and the things that I have experienced in my life with toxic people. We need to be able to identify who these folks are before they come into our lives, before we develop strong relationships with them, before we get into a situation that we're going to have an issue getting out of, right? So we need to be able to protect ourselves. So characteristic number 1 with a toxic person, and these are the things I've personally observed. They do not, number 1, they do not take responsibility for their actions. This may be the biggest thing, or this is definitely at the top of the list. The biggest thing, the biggest toxic behavior. Now, when I say toxic behavior, I'm talking about we all have some sort of maladaptive characteristics. None of us are perfect. But when I say a toxic person, now these are frequent and a pattern that these people exhibit continually. Now, if they continually exhibit these traits and these behaviors, you're more than likely dealing with a toxic person. So number 1, they don't take responsibilities for their actions and their behaviors. They will blame the mailman, they will blame the dog, they will blame everyone else but themselves. They will try to put off what they did on you. They do not take responsibility. More than likely, these people, when they don't take responsibility, they also do not apologize for the things that they do to hurt us. So they don't take responsibilities for their actions. They will not fess up and say, hey, yeah, I did this, and I'm taking full responsibility for the way I hurt you or what I did to you. They will gloss over it. They will try to avoid it by all means possible. So they don't take responsibility for their actions. So when you find that people are not taking responsibilities for their actions, watch out. They could be dangerous. You could be dealing with a very, very toxic person. Number 2, they lack empathy. This is another biggie. Them lacking empathy. Empathy is very important. That's the thing. That's how you know that a person has a conscience. So when for instance, I've dealt with quite a few people who lacked empathy, and I myself have struggled in the empathy category. And having myself having identified that within myself, I can easily compartmentalize, so I can understand these people, and I have dealt with that maladaptive behavior, and now I can better empathize with people and feel what they feel. And this is a very important human trait to have. And when a person when they lack empathy, they can do just about anything to you and not feel any remorse for it. They are unable to go into anyone else's shoes and see things from a different perspective. They lack empathy. So that's another big one. They lack empathy. Number 3, They are energy vampires. Now, these people are the covert manipulators. These people are the covert narcissists. You can't readily detect that they are dangerous people, but basically is what you feel around them. When you're in their presence after they leave, like, how do you feel? Do you feel like the life has been sucked out of you? You may not be able to pinpoint exactly what they did. These people usually, they will harm you or do things undercover, or maybe say a thing or do a thing, and it's very subtle, and all of a sudden you just feel like you've been attacked, or that they just suck the life out of you, or you just feel lifeless. These are energy vampires, and they just take from you. And just when you're in their presence, you just feel like so tired when they're gone. These are energy vampires. They're toxic people. Stay away from them if you can. Number 4, the fourth characteristic or the fourth trait of a toxic person is that they have explosive tempers. These people are able to go from 0 to 100 in no time. And anything could just basically set them off, right? These people are dangerous because they can be physically abusive, they can be verbally abusive, they can be emotionally abusive. So they have explosive tempers, and these people lack self-control. So when you find a person who does not have, or they lack self-control, you're more than likely dealing with a toxic person. Number 5, everything revolves around them. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and you just can't get a word in edgewise, and it is every time you're dealing with them, they always have to always bring up themselves and their issues and their problems, and everything revolves around them, and it's all about them. And you guys could be talking even in a group about one thing, and they'll always be the people to bring it back to them and what they're doing and how they're feeling and how great they are. If you're dealing with a person when everything is continually, or they're able to get everything to revolve around them and the things that they want to do, and you suggest something that you guys can do, whether you're married to this person, or they're a friend, or a colleague, or a parent, or a child, but they're able to get things to be their way or to revolve around them, be careful. You could be dealing with a toxic person. So everything revolves around them. That's number 5. Number 6, they do not like boundaries, right? So if you set a boundary, they're going to cross it. They don't like rules. They don't like laws. They don't like regulations. They're too good for it. They think that it does not apply to them. So you have to watch out for these people who will continually violate your boundaries, who continue to violate your space, your time, who do not have a care about anything except for themselves. So these people, they will violate your boundaries. You have to watch out for them. That means that they are probably a toxic person if they continue to violate your boundaries. Number 7, this is another big one. They're unable to take criticism. Now, none of us really like to be criticized, but we all have to take it and hear it. For me, I personally don't like a great deal of criticism, but I do take it. I think that's a part of being a mature adult and a mature person. And for me, I look at it sort of like, I may not like what's being said, but it's when people criticize, and even if it's constructive criticism, it's basically, I view it as someone just holding up a mirror to me and allowing me to see myself at a different angle through their eyes or through the eyes of other people. But these folks can't take any criticism. Being around them is like walking on eggshells. They're so touchy. They're so hypersensitive. If you find that in a person and you feel like you can't say anything around them, it might set them off or upset them. They're just so overly sensitive. These are eggshell people. They are so vulnerable and so fragile on the inside. You could be dealing with a toxic person, so watch out. Number 8 is another huge one. Is that they lie compulsively. Like if the truth just went up to their face and just smacked them upside the head, they wouldn't be able to tell it. These people lie about anything, big and small. They continually lie to you. They compulsively lie. That's a toxic person. And not just outright just not telling the truth. I'm talking about lies of omission too. So people that will purposely withhold information to you from you. You could be dealing with a very toxic person, so watch out for the compulsive lying. Now, I have not done this video for us to judge people or for us to not give them a chance, but there are some people who have these characteristics. Now, there are two other characteristics that I left off, and that was jealousy and controlling. Those are two big ones as well, but the ones that the 8 ones that I have highlighted have always resulted in me finding out that that was a very toxic person. And we have to, as a people, protect ourselves from toxic folks. I think for women especially, we are socialized to give people a lot of chances. And many religious traditions, we are taught, and in our religions to, have hope for people and to give them a lot of chances. But I'm doing this video series, and I've done this video for you to understand that there are certain characteristics of people that we need to accept and to understand and to see that, hey, I'm dealing with a toxic person. So it's less about judging and more about accepting what's in front of you. Sometimes we have fantasies about people and we want them to be a certain way. I think the world is growing increasingly shallow, and people are becoming increasingly self-centered, and we need to be able to come out of ourselves and really see people for what they are and not for the fantasy that we have constructed in our minds, right? We get so caught up, especially in romantic relationships, in the way the person looks and if they're charming and they say the right things and how they make us feel. And sometimes these narcissists or these manipulators, they could lavish us with all this attention and make us feel good about ourselves. And then these behaviors begin to surface. These patterns begin to surface. And then next thing you know, we're in trouble, and then we're in a relationship, and we're in a situation that we cannot readily get out of. Now, if you know that you're in a relationship or you're in a situation with a toxic person, sometimes we can't readily get out of it, right? If we're married to the person, if the person is our parent, if it's a child, if it's a work situation, you just can't up and just quit your job. We just need to, I don't want to say give up hope, but there's some people in life that are not going to change. And we need to accept that. So this video series and this video is more about accepting the fact that there's some people that will not change. People do not change, guess what, until they do. We are not what we say. We are not what we project. We are what we do. And I want to raise or be one of those people that will raise awareness of that people are what they do. And we need to watch for these patterns, not to be skeptical of everyone or suspicious of everyone, but we need to examine carefully the patterns of those who are in our lives and to be able to make a judgment on that. Not to judgment or prejudge them before that, but to make a judgment on these patterns and be able to determine, okay, whether or not this person is a blessing or is good for me, or maybe be able to determine, okay, this person is detrimental and they are hurting me. So those are the 8 characteristics of toxic people, and I'm going to see you in the next video. I'm excited about this series. Once again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I want you to be blessed. I want you to be healed. I want you to be in healthy relationships, and hopefully what I have shared today have been of some help. If you have any comments, just drop me some comments. If I left anything out, just highlight that, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care, and God bless.